2, 1, 0.
Well, given the fact that we've got news that a lot of people are going into self-isolation or mandated isolation if they've come back from a different country, today's episode, we figured we would do some binge-worthy shows because, let's be honest, a lot of people are going to be sitting on their ass for the next couple of weeks, and we're hoping it's only a couple of weeks because I don't know where you guys are located, but here in Canada, they closed the border today to non-Canadians, and who knows what's next?
Well, they also closed here in Alberta, they closed all our schools, so myself being a teacher, I'm still required to be at work, and we're spending the day making plans, figuring out what our next steps are and how we continue to educate these students when we might not be in the classroom for a while.
So I guess if I take a look at some of the binge-worthy stuff that you can get on, let's say, Netflix or Disney Plus right now, my number one would be the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the MCU. A marathon, especially with the Avengers Endgame being behind us and Marvel Phase 4 is definitely on the horizon. However, it is kind of a little bit slow right now because a lot of production has been put stop. I would say watching the Marvel movies in order is one of the things that I would do.
I would agree with you, and that was actually my number one as well. And I was reflecting on how I would want to watch them. Would I want to watch them in order of release, or would I want to watch them chronologically? I think it would be more fun and a better representation if you were to watch these movies in the order that they are meant to be seen, the story version. So even though Captain America, the First Avenger was the 5th movie to come out, it would be the first movie I would watch.
And that, you know what? That's exactly what I was thinking as well. Actually, if you take a look in the show notes, I am going to list the chronological viewing order of all the Marvel movies. But Captain Marvel just came out a couple months ago, or I guess just a little over a year ago. However, chronologically speaking, it is number 2, because Captain America, the First Avenger, takes place during World War II. Captain Marvel takes place around 1995. And then Iron Man, which was the first movie ever released for Marvel, actually takes place in 2010.
And if you look at it, Thor, the original Thor, the Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2 all take place simultaneously.
Yes.
And a fun thing to try and do, too, when the Marvel movies were first being released on DVD and Blu-ray, they all had what was called the Marvel one-shot. And it was a little story, just a short little thing. It's like one of them was called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Thor's Hammer. And they just are 10, 15 minutes filling in little gaps of the stories that you might not get. So I can provide as well where those little shorts can fit into the order of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And then when Marvel movies such as the Black Widow and the Eternals are released, however, Eternals just got delayed, we still haven't heard about Black Widow, along with Disney shows such as Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision. Then we'll have to kind of revamp this list and see exactly how they fall into the MCU timeline. Because Black Widow, for example, is definitely set after Captain America Civil War. But since you can't actually see the movie yet, we're not sure where it's going to take place.
From all indications that I have read online or seen, it takes place in that 3-month period between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War.
Marvel aside, because if we take a look at the Marvel one, we're looking at about 3,000 minutes.
Yep.
Of viewing. So that's, I can't remember, that equates to a lot of hours. So, I mean, if you're binge watching, you can start doing about 3 of these a day, and it's not going to consume your entire day. Now, if you're a Marvel fan and you got nothing else to do, you know what? You might want to rip through these as fast as possible. But outside of that,
I recently, I guess is too loose of a term, just before Endgame came out, I did do Marvel movies leading up to it. And I was able to do one a night. I would do as I'm sitting and I'm planning for my next day, or I'm doing marking. I would sit and I would watch one of the Avenger movies, and it did. It took me one a night. It took me just shy of a month.
And unfortunately, with all the news release, that looks like it might be a possibility for us because that's not something that we hope for, but it could be a reality. Now, if you were to take a look at another binge-worthy show or movie set, what would be your next one that you would promote?
For me, I would do, now with the release of the latest one, I would do the entire Star Wars saga. I would start with episode, and I would watch them chronologically. I would do 1, 2, 3. Then I would do Solo, Rogue Squadron, 4, 5, 6. And then 7, 8, and finally 9, Rise of Skywalker. And if you are really, really that diehard fan, you could throw in the Star Wars Christmas special or the 2 Ewok movies. But I would not recommend any of those.
If you were to include that Solo movie and some of the other stuff, including the originals, we're looking at about 20, depending on the different cuts that you get, it's between 22 to 24 hours. Of movie watching as well. So I know that my wife would hate that because, well, she hasn't watched one Star Wars yet and doesn't intend to.
No, and mine was, she has some love of Star Wars going back to when we were actually in grade 3 together and we'd play Star Wars, all the kids on the playground. We'd pick the characters and play those. So she's got some love for it, but not to my level of obsession.
So if you're a Star Wars fan, you got another 20-some hours of time. And I would say the next one, if you're into sci-fi and you're into a little bit of fantasy, one of the ones out there, and it's 2 trilogies that you can watch, it'd be to start off with the Hobbit trilogy and then go Lord of the Rings trilogy. And that, you're looking at a runtime of like 2.5, 3 hours per movie on those.
Unless you have the director's cuts. I have the director's cuts of all the Lord of the Rings, and I do believe the Return of the King is just shy of 4 hours itself.
So something like that could be a really good break for you as well.
Yeah.
Any other ones that you, off the top of your head, Chris, that you would like to do? Now let's keep in the movie realm.
That's where my head is. So far, we're right on track with each other. I'm thinking my next one, 24, and that's James Bond.
Oh, nice one. That, you know what? That one actually somehow that slipped by. How would you watch these ones?
Now, the way I would watch them is I would watch these ones in order of release. That way you're not mixing up your Bonds. I would start with Sean Connery, move on to the John Lazenby. Then I would go to Roger Moore. I am really tempted to skip the Timothy Daltons. I did not like those Bond movies at all. Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig. Those are the order, chronological, not chronological, but order of release.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I heard that the latest Bond might be delayed till November now. I think it was scheduled for an April release.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out here around spring break, I believe. Well, our spring break, so just middle of April.
Any other ones that you can think of as far as movies?
Well, for me, and I know this is not in your wheelhouse, I would myself...
Oh, you're going to start Star Trek.
I was going to say the 13 Star Trek movies. I would watch those. I am not your diehard Trekkie, but I do enjoy the films. Like I said previously, I love Star Trek The Next Generation, but there's something about the film universe that appeals to me. And again, I'd watch those ones chronologically, even though I absolutely despise a handful of them. I would still watch it. I would suffer through those ones to get the complete story.
Now, do you know if those are available on Netflix, or is that something that you have to buy?
The Star Trek movies, I believe, are all available on Netflix. I was going to say Netflix also has, and I think we're segueing the same way, Netflix also has all the Star Trek TV series as well.
Now let's flip over to TV. What kind of TV shows are you most interested in? I mean, my first one, if you want tons of shows, the two top ones that come to my mind, and there's 31 seasons, and they're on Disney Plus. I'm talking Simpsons.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting because when you start off with The Simpsons, you actually hear the big differences in the voices, and you can notice the difference in the actual cartoons as opposed to now.
Oh, definitely. I agree with you. And you just the tone and the use of Homer's voice. Homer alone, you can tell what season you're watching based on how Dan Castellaneta used it. I'm an English teacher. Used his voice.
And the other one that I'm looking at right now would be Family Guy.
You know what? I also had that one too. That one is on season 20? No.
I'm not too sure.
I really don't know.
I think it might be season 17, 18, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, and you know, I don't think it will be long because it is a Fox-owned property. I don't think it will be long before Family Guy starts showing up on Disney Plus as well.
True.
It's kind of a little bit more gruff than some of the other shows that are appearing on there, but I can see it happening.
I see that one of the other shows that I've really enjoyed, and you know what? I didn't get into this show until well after it was done, was the show Breaking Bad.
I never watched Breaking Bad. It's on my list of ones I would like to tackle. I just haven't gotten to that one yet.
Yeah, I got into it probably, I would say, like 3 years after the series ended. And it actually made me feel bad that I didn't watch it while it was going on. Yeah. It's something that was really good.
Yeah, I've heard nothing negative about it. And now they have Netflix has the sequel, do they not?
There is a sequel movie, but that is it.
Yeah. One show that I always loved, and I do believe it still is on Netflix, I would have to verify. I love the show Las Vegas.
You know what? I never got into that one.
I love Las Vegas. It was a great show taking place in a fictional casino on the in the Las Vegas Strip, and it was enjoyable. There was some mystery. James Caan was the casino owner, and he was like a former CIA operative, and he had like the best security team on the Strip. It was a very enjoyable series.
Another one that a lot of people got into that, you know what, I watch it occasionally. I'm not sure if I would be able to binge watch this, but this series ran from 2005 to 2013, and this is The Office.
You know, I never watched The Office either. There was the odd one here or there. If it was on, I'd kind of watch it because I'm a Steve Carell fan. But it was not one that I would sit down and watch.
Yeah, it's gained a lot of popularity, especially now on Netflix that you can I believe it's on Netflix. You can access all of the episodes on there, but you know what? Depending, I guess, what you're doing, you might start running out of new stuff to look at, and it's one of the ones that that I personally, if I'm going to be stuck at home, it's something that I might get into.
Yeah, one that I tried to get into, and I may try again, is running from 2011 to 2019 is Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that one, you know what? I've never seen one episode of that.
I watched the first season. I was very much persuaded that it's something I should watch. And, you know, I love the Lord of the Rings. I love the fantasy type TV shows. I just could not get past that. But it might be one that I give a second shot to, and that's available. That would be available on like the HBO on demand.
Now let's take a look back at Netflix ones and back at the Marvel ones. there is, I believe you can still stream some of the Marvel TV shows, such as Daredevil, The Punisher.
Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, and then there was also the Defenders.
So I don't know how exactly those tie into the Marvel universe. The one I was hoping that would be on Disney Plus, which is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And as far as I can see, it isn't on Disney Plus as of yet.
No, I have not found it on Disney Plus as well. I watched that one pretty closely up until about the 4th season, and just the way, you know, how life goes, it was one that just kind of fell off the wayside. I didn't pick it up, but that one had very, you know, it had connections to the MCU. They always referenced the Avengers and those characters as the New York incident. And the same with the Netflix series like Daredevil and Luke Cage. They didn't directly comment on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but they were connected. In fact, rumor has it that the Russo brothers originally had ideas to include Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage in the Endgame film. Did you ever watch? Are you a fan of Stranger Things?
You know what? I've never seen an episode of it.
I watched the first season, and you know, I like weird stuff, but that one was just a little too out there for me.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. There's, you know, I'm taking a look at see what Netflix actually has on, and there's some good classic ones. Apparently, now I'm trying to scan through this. Cheers is apparently on Netflix.
Oh, really?
And Frasier. Those are some of the good ones that, you know, especially if you're a little bit older and you remember these shows. These are ones that came on once a week, and they lasted forever, and they were great shows to have on. And, you know, even if you want something in on the background and you're not really watching it, but it's something interesting to watch. The other one that I would say, I mean, there's a lot of negative stuff going on right now. Yeah, and
very true.
One of the favorite groups of guys that I love to watch is Monty Python. So they've got Monty Python's Flying Circus on Netflix.
That, oh my God, I never thought of the Pythons. I remember our good friend Stuart. He was a giant Monty Python fan, and you could name an episode or name a skit. He could just rattle off the songs associated with it. Those would be a great no-brainer. Just sit and listen and enjoy. Did you watch on HBO? There was the nine episode show, The Watchmen.
No, I never saw it. I don't have HBO.
Oh,
I've got two kids, so I don't. I basically have either Disney on, or there's cooking shows on my TV. So I try and commandeer the TV when I can.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Watchmen TV show. I remember reading the comic in the 80s when Alan Moore first released it through DC Comics. I watched the movie that Zack Snyder did in the early 2000s. And this show, I went into it with some hesitation, but it is a continuation. It's an original story, but has aspects of real life racial incidences that happened in Oklahoma in the 60s, or prior to the 60s, excuse me. It was a really, really good series, and one that I know it was a one season, one and done thing, because the writer Lindelof, he said that's the whole story. He told his whole story.
Another show that popped up on my list that might be interesting to binge watch, and actually this one would be more of a challenge to binge watch, not because the show isn't good. It's just good in small doses, because I think you would go fucking crazy if you were to binge watch the entire thing.
Oh, I'm curious what you're...
There should be some kid stuff on this binge list, right?
Oh, definitely.
And most of the family offerings on Netflix are pretty generic. So why not go back to an absolute classic? It's the twisted, inspired Looney Tunes adventure of a man known as Pee Wee Herman. Pee Wee's Playhouse is on Netflix. Now, like I said, once you hear that show theme, there's only so many times you can listen to that and listen to him saying the word of the day. But I don't know if you could binge watch it, but let's say you could do one episode, maybe a day.
Yeah, I don't think I could go any more than that. I was never a big Pee Wee's Playhouse fan. I remember watching Pee Wee's Big Adventure and Large Marge when he's picked up by the trucker. That part scared the living hell out of me. And it was even more funny because I had an aunt named Marge.
Was she large?
She wasn't large, but she was definitely a personality.
Well, you guys, we're going to wrap up this quick episode of the Splash Page. Once again, hope this helped you out on some of the stuff that you can binge watch.
And if you have any suggestions for us, because like you, we are going to be homeward bound for the next little while, let us know, because we would like to try something new.
And you know what? For everybody else's sake, any episodes or any TV shows that we haven't mentioned that are your favorite to binge watch, well, go to us on Instagram. It's _splash_page and write out which ones you absolutely enjoy and pass on the love, people. We are entering a time that it's absolutely shitty out there. A lot of us are going to be sitting on our ass doing nothing for the next couple of weeks. And, you know, my fitness clients are backing off right now, and rightly so. They need to take care of themselves, need to take care of their health. But in that time, make sure you're getting in those workouts if you can. And when you're not working out, plunk your ass down on the couch and binge watch.
Yep. Take care of yourselves. Wash your hands. Do what you need to do. The biggest thing going on right now is just the panic.
Keep your fingers out of your nose. That goes out to you, that you know that, because, I mean, you're a school teacher. You see nose pickers all day.
I live with a bottle of hand sanitizer on my desk. So
normally,
I'm a germaphobe, and I never was one before, but since I became a teacher, some of the stuff that gets handed into me, I tell you.
All right, everybody. We will drop more episodes if needed outside of the regular schedule to keep you updated and entertained. We will see you next week.